This movie begins with a group of criminals trafficking weapons, and suddenly the FBI appears to arrest them. The trafficker pulls out a gun, and the agents are forced to neutralize him. Bobby gets nervous and accidentally points his weapon at the trafficker's men. The situation gets out of control, and the officers end up killing the armed subjects. Then they arrest Mickey to take him to prison. When they take the bodies to the hospital, they reveal that the trafficker was an undercover agent. The plan does not turn out as expected. No one was supposed to die. At night, his co-workers surprise him with a celebration for his retirement from the FBI. After celebrating his retirement, one of the agents discovers that Bobby was the son of one of the most wanted mobsters. On the other hand, Bobby's brother tells his parents that they killed his brother. To look for information, the mob posts Mickey's bail and then kidnaps him. They beat him until Mickey tells them that Bobby was a consumer of their illegal substances. When he learned about their business, he insisted on going with him. He went by his own will. The one responsible for his death was the trafficker, but he was shot when he pulled out his weapon. At that moment, the criminal's father appears to kill the bodyguard who is supposed to watch his son 24 hours a day. The next morning, we meet our protagonist's family because of his retirement. Now he will be able to spend more time with them, afraid that the mobsters might retaliate. They have moved several times, something his son cannot understand. Frank promises him that they will move one last time. When he is an adult, he will tell him everything. On the other hand, the mobster says goodbye to his son in a morgue. Then he asks one of the agents several questions about the trafficker. The agent only responds by telling him that they cannot discuss the case for his safety. He must leave the investigation in the hands of professionals. In the next scene, we see the mobster with his informants. They offered a lot of money to discover information about the trafficker. Some time later, Frank and his family go to Puerto Rico for a family gathering. During the night, Castle shows his happiness to his partner. He regrets not having retired earlier. Despite knowing the risk of being with him, she was always by his side. The next morning, the mobster receives classified information about our protagonist. That is how they discover that the trafficker was actually an undercover agent. His real name is Frank Castle. Now he is in Puerto Rico with his family. Next week, he'll go to England. His plan is to settle in London for office work. Howard orders Quentin to take care of him, but his wife mentions that he must kill his entire family. She wants him to suffer in the flesh. Back with our protagonist, his son gives him a t-shirt with a skull print. When he bought it, the shopkeeper told him that the shirt holds evil spirits. Just when Maria's father calls him to show him his weapon collection, the mobsters appear to kill his entire family. Both grab one of the weapons and manage to take down a couple of subjects. Later, we see Maria and her son hiding under a boat. To try to get away, they decide to run toward the car to escape the area. The mobsters notice and begin to chase her. After taking down the subjects at the house, Frank gets on his motorcycle to protect his family, but when he arrives, it is already too late. At that moment, the mobsters appear and shoot him in the leg. Bobby's brother beats him, then they shoot him in the abdomen. Before leaving, they pour gasoline all over the dock and set it on fire. Thanks to the explosion, our protagonist is blown into the sea. Later, we see Castle dying on the shore. A couple of hours later, a fisherman finds him lying there and decides to help him. At night, the mobsters go to a nightclub, where upon receiving the news, they toast to the agent's death. To speak privately with his informants, he asks his right-hand man to dance with Livia, but seeing them too close, he starts getting jealous. Later, Howard gives her diamond earrings for keeping her word. His wife gives him a small reward. Some undefined time later, we see our protagonist recovering his father's weapons. When he returns to the fisherman, he finds the t-shirt the little one gave him. Before leaving, he thanks the fisherman for saving him from a certain death. When renting an apartment, he sets out to create hiding places, traps, and reinforce his car completely. The neighbor next door tells her friends that she could not sleep. The new tenant was awake all day, making a lot of noise. That night, our protagonist kidnaps the mobster's lackey and threatens to burn him alive. Mickey tells him about the business his boss has with two Cubans who trust their money to him. He also tells him Howard's routine. 5 days a week, he usually plays at his course. The one who ordered the death of his family was his wife, Livia. Every Thursday, she goes to the gym, gets her nails done, and goes to the movies. Howard keeps her very controlled. Any man who looks at her the wrong way ends up dead. John is a jerk who wastes his money on women. It is his daily routine. Quentin is the family's lawyer and accountant. He is a sadist with strange fetishes because Mickey hates working with them. He decides to join our protagonist to eliminate the family. They always treat him badly. He is tired of being a lackey. The next morning, Castle removes his tombstone and then leaves it in the mobster's field. During a police press conference, Frank appears in front of his co-workers who are surprised to see him alive. Frank gets angry with them for doing nothing. 5 months ago, they murdered his family, and they have done nothing to arrest those responsible. In a few words, he makes it clear that he will seek justice on his own. That afternoon, he infiltrates the building where the mobsters launder the bills. After knocking out a couple of employees to get the access card, he forces the accountants to throw all the bills out the window. The people go crazy while the mobsters head to the building. When trying to get into the elevator, Frank appears and challenges them to a duel, in which our protagonist ends up killing them. The next morning, the Cubans appear by surprise at the mobsters' mansion. Because of the madman they supposedly had killed, they lost more than $50 million. Howard guarantees that he will return the money to them and give them protection on the next shipment. When the brothers leave, Quentin tells him that he hired a professional assassin who will put an end to everything. A few hours later, a guy appears at the hotel to knock on Frank's neighbor's door. Her friends try to ask him to leave, but the guy gets angry and slaps them several times. At that moment, our protagonist comes out of his room. The guy tries to intimidate him, and Frank neutralizes him with one blow. Anna comes out to thank him for helping them. She tells him that she saw him on the news. All the tenants know his story. The people he is facing are very dangerous. In the next scene, we see Livia going to the cinema. Later, our protagonist appears and puts a fire hydrant next to the vehicle, checking her purse. He finds the gift Howard gave her. Altering his voice with a distorter, he calls Quentin to tell him that he has a history of photos with his boyfriend. If he does not show up at the indicated place with $5,000, he will show the photos to his boss. A couple of hours later, the police give her a ticket because of the hydrant. Upon arriving at the indicated location, Quentin waits, but no one shows up. On the other hand, Howard worries about his partner. It has been a while since he has heard anything from her and his best friend. At that moment, Mickey appears to tell him that he saw Quentin entering a hotel. Upon returning to the mansion, Howard asks him where he was all night. Quentin answers that he fell asleep by the pool, to which his boss tells him what Mickey said. Quentin says that maybe he confused him with someone else. The next morning, Castle is having breakfast in the cafe where his neighbor works, when suddenly, a man in a suit appears and sits across from Frank. He takes out a guitar and starts singing a song. He approaches and shares his name with him. Before leaving, he indirectly tells him that he will finish him off. The song he has been singing, he will sing it at his funeral. A couple of hours later, a green car tries to provoke an accident. The man from the cafe gets out of the car and shoots him with a shotgun. Frank manages to take cover and tries to escape, but farther ahead, he has an accident in which he ends up overturning. The killer approaches and Frank pulls out a weapon. Harry mocks him for pulling out a knife in a shootout, and at that moment, Castle presses a button with which he drives the blade into the killer's neck. That night, John and his men are at the dock collecting money. John notices a strange sound. He begins to investigate and finds a bomb. When he jumps into the sea, the bomb explodes, destroying all the cargo. As he approaches the shore, he sees Frank leaving the place. Howard gets angry when he learns of the loss of the money. As if that were not enough, the Cubans show up to demand answers, something that causes an argument that ends badly. Tired of the former FBI agent, he asks Quentin to call the Russian assassin. The next morning, Castle receives an unexpected visit. In the end, it turns out to be one of his neighbors. Dave tells him that the crazy guy from that night came back to bother Anna. Frank agrees to help him, and it turns out that his neighbors actually prepared a dinner to invite him, since his diet has not been adequate. Castle devours his dish in a couple of minutes. Dave and his friend leave them alone, and Anna tells him that he can forget his past. He must make new memories. She approaches and tries to caress his face, but Frank stops her and leaves, telling her that he is not the person she is looking for. A couple of hours later, there is a knock on the door again. Confident thinking it is one of his neighbors, he opens the door, and it turns out to be the Russian sent by the Mafia boss. Although he manages to stab him, the Russian keeps going as if nothing happened. He pushes him against the wall and stabs him. Frank grabs a drawer with which he manages to break free. He tries to grab a tool, but the thug stops him. He crawls to the bathroom where he grabs a grenade from one of his hiding spots. The Russian throws it back at him, and Frank takes cover in the bathtub. The thug rips out the toilet and sends it flying into the hallway. Then he throws him into his neighbor's apartment, where our protagonist throws boiling oil on his face. He takes him down the stairs until they both fall. This is how he kills him, leaving his arm dislocated. Since they cannot take him to a hospital because of the officers, they give him some alcohol to begin stitching his open wounds. At that moment, Dave sees the mobsters outside the building, so they decide to hide him in one of Frank's hiding spots. Quentin interrogates the neighbors, but he tells them that he will not say anything. Quentin begins to torture him, but they do not get any information. In case he appears, they leave one of their men at the entrance. When night falls, Frank recovers and grabs a machete to finish the thug. Then he thanks Dave for not turning him in. He apologizes for the problems he has caused them, and his friend takes him to the hospital. As he prepares his weapons to finish his revenge, Anna tells him that it is useless to kill them. In the end, he will become one of them. He only risks his life in the process. Castle responds that he has nothing to lose, unlike them. Afterward, we see him placing the fire hydrant next to Livia's car. He grabs the diamonds from the purse and calls Quentin to blackmail him with the photos. In the next scene, we see Mickey handing him the ticket Livia got at the hotel. Howard suspects that his wife is being unfaithful and heads to his best friend's house. When Quentin leaves toward the agreed location, we see Frank entering through the back. A couple of minutes later, Howard shows up looking for Quentin. When he enters the bedroom, he finds his partner's earrings on his friend's bed. When Quentin returns, he takes out a knife and throws it on the table. He accuses him of betrayal. He already knows about his wife. Quentin does not understand anything. His friend keeps accusing him of being a traitor and hits him. Then he stabs him in the abdomen. He always considered him a brother. He never denied him anything. Before dying, Quentin asks him why he did it. Upon returning to the mansion, Howard throws all his partner's belongings at her. He accuses her of being unfaithful with his best friend. She was fined at the hotel where Quentin was. Livia reveals that his friend had a relationship with a guy, but Howard does not believe her words. Afterward, he takes her to a bridge where he throws her onto the train tracks. Although Livia survives the fall, the train runs over her. As he prepares for the battle, Castle tells us that he died the moment his family was killed. In certain extreme situations, the law is deficient. To humiliate its insufficiency, it is necessary to act outside the law, to pursue natural justice. What he does is not revenge. What he does is punishment. Afterward, we see one of the mobster's men fall. Next, he places several bombs everywhere. He moves forward stealthily while taking down the thugs he encounters along the way. When the ones upstairs ask for a bottle of champagne, Frank sends them a bucket with a bomb. While Castle fights the mobsters, Howard takes advantage and escapes in the elevator. When he is left alone with John, he ties a bomb to his hand with his arm extended. Due to the injuries caused by the explosion, Castle manages to reach the mobster. He challenges him to a duel, and our protagonist shoots him in the abdomen. He throws the photographs, revealing that his friend never betrayed him. His wife was never unfaithful with Quentin. He killed his 2 children. Now he will kill him. He ties his leg to the car and places one of his bombs. When the car starts, it triggers a massive explosion in the Mafia's parking garage. Upon returning to the apartment, he has a couple of drinks while looking at a picture of his family. Then he grabs his gun and tries to take his life. But at that moment, he has a memory of his partner, something that makes him change his mind. The next morning, our protagonist decides to leave the apartment, not without leaving a small gift for his neighbors for the trouble. Before ending the movie, Frank tells us that he will now go after the murderers, the rapists, and the people who harm others, baptizing himself as the Punisher.